I miss the days when we used to get such spooky animated family films like Corpse Bride, Paranorman, Monster House, etc. So with Stitchhead hitting theaters soon, I was so hyped about this movie. But the question is this worth seeing in theaters or should you skip out on it? Let's get started on my review of Stitchhead. Let's go. What's going on, all my beautiful people? This is Jacey, and I just finished watching an early screening of Stitchhead. Now, before I do get started with my review, please know that this will be a spoiler-free review, just in case you haven't seen it yet, showing in theaters on October 29th, right before Halloween. Also, please make sure that you hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date on more new spooky animated movies and shows that I'm reviewing just like this. So, Stitchhead stars Asa Butterfield, Fern Brady, Joel Fry, and more. So, when I saw the trailers for this, I thought in my head, man, I gotta see that movie. Now, whether it's good or not was really the big question that was on my mind, but seeing the trailers and the previews for this movie, I thought right away, this reminds me of back in the day when we used to get such spooky animated films more towards Halloween, but since then, it seems like we haven't really gotten any movies like that. Feels like as the years have passed, we really don't get many animated holiday films anymore, and it's kind of sad because that is a lot of my childhood. So going into this film, I had somewhat of an understanding of Stitchhead, and when I mean somewhat of an understanding, I mean that I knew that it was based off of a book. And although I haven't read that book, I will preface that for sure with this review. I thought, you know what? Let me just watch the film first and see if it's entertaining, if it's wholesome, if it's good for families to view, and if it's just a good film overall. So I went to this kind of with a blank slate and just wanting to be entertained. Now, as far as the story goes, I'm going to give you guys a brief synopsis, but of course, I'm not going to spoil the movie for you guys or give you any kind of key details of what happens. But high in the foggy mountains stands Castle Grotesque, home to a wild scientist obsessed with creating the most bizarre monsters imaginable. One of his earliest experiments is a stitched up boy named, well, you guessed it, Stitchhead. And the film does a pretty good job of setting up the story, showing how he's been long forgotten out of a lot of the creations that the scientist has made. Still, Stitchhead, though, keeps busy caring for the professor's other creations and trying to keep them out of trouble. Now, here's where things get a little different. His lonely existence changes when a struggling circus owner named Fulbert Freakfinder arrives, and he offers Stitchhead a shot at fame and acceptance. And that's where the story starts from here. That's pretty much a brief synopsis again, you guys, but with that being said, I love the play off of Frankenstein with this movie. You have Stitchhead kind of questioning his existence, but it not being too complex to where kids can't really catch on to it. I loved how he not only saw how his maker, aka the scientist, was treating him, but he also starts to see other ways of life and looking at maybe the grass can be greener on the other side. And one of the things that did draw my attention with these previews is that the story plays like a blend of Frankenstein and Monsters, Inc., mixing heartwarming moments with eerie charm. It's an adventure about friendship, identity, and what it means to be seen for who you really are. I love that part about it. Now, although this film doesn't do anything to really change the genre or do anything spectacular, and there is times where it is pretty predictable even at the end, it kind of feels familiar, it's still awesome to see it hit some of those chords because I feel like we don't get many family films that talk about kids really accepting themselves for who they are, or even how society views them and them trying to just navigate through that. But the humor and emotional moments give the movie real heart. The film balances silly monster fun with meaningful life lessons about being different and proud of it, which is something that I think I could relate even growing up. Not to make this review about me, but I really could relate to Stitchhead being so different and him kind of being heartbroken over it at first, but then learning how to accept himself for being different or even weird. Now, when it comes to the voice acting, the cast brings a lot of personality to their roles. Asa Butterfield gives Stitchhead a mix of sadness and hope, making him both fragile and brave at the same time. Rob Brydon's take on the mad professor professor is full of energy and eccentric flair, while Joel Fry as the creature delivers plenty of warmth and comic timing that steals a few scenes. And I love seeing him in here because I saw him not too long ago in another film, and even in that film Yesterday, if you guys recall, it's that one movie that has that take on the Beatles. Love that film, but he's one of those characters that's always stood out to me in certain films, especially his comedic timing, and a lot of what he says is always funny. So hearing him be the voice of the creature, I thought it fit perfectly, and just loved how he brought a lot of that timing and a lot of the comedy to this film. Now, Tia Bannon's voice as Arabella, the curious young girl who befriends the monsters, adds a sense of innocence and optimism that helps balance the darker parts of the film. And to be honest, guys, overall, the voice performances give the characters real life and charm, helping younger viewers connect to the story's emotional core. It seems like some of the themes, especially as they're trying to play into Frankenstein, seems complex with a lot of the story or the way it could go, but I feel like this is easily digestible when it comes to kids, and they could understand it while seeing it and really knowing what the movie is trying to say. Now, we do have to talk about the animation, which is one of my favorite parts about giving some of these reviews, but visually, Stitchhead is a treat. The animation has a textured, handcrafted look that gives it a slightly spooky but cozy atmosphere. The designs are quirky and imaginative, and each monster looks strange in their own special way, but never truly scary. There's like a wholesomeness about the way the monsters look and how they view the world as well as themselves. Now, the movie's gloomy castle setting and gothic touches feel inspired by Tim Burton's style, yet it still manages to stand on its own. The color palette blends shadowy blues and grays with pops of circus reds and yellows, creating a world that feels both creepy and inviting. A lot of the visuals to me kind of reminded me of Igor, but just not as eccentric, but it also kind of blends with a Tim Burton-like film, just with more brighter colors. Now, the musical score is by Nick Rata. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but he ties everything together so well, adding a playful, almost fairy tale-like tone to the darker scenes. And like I said, it makes it a little more kid-friendly when it could really steer off into the darker tones, if you know what I mean. Now, here are my final thoughts, you guys. Stitchhead doesn't completely reinvent the monster movie formula, but it has plenty of heart and creativity. Also laughs. There was plenty of times where I found myself giggling or thinking, wow, it was pretty funny. And even with the timing, like I said, in certain parts, I thought it was pretty joyful, and a lot of the comedy was inserted at some of the right times, not making it too dark and kind of leveling out some of these themes that could be pretty serious, especially with the subject matter. The film's message about friendship, acceptance, and finding beauty in imperfections hits home, especially for kids and families. It's visually unique, well-voiced, and filled with just the right amount of humor and heart. With all that being said, you guys, I'm gonna give Stitchhead 3.5 flames out of 5 and a pretty fire film rating.
It's nice.
I feel like this movie was pretty worth watching, and I felt like it was perfect timing with when it's coming out. Especially if you enjoy offbeat animated adventures with a gothic twist. Love the Universal monsters and anything that has to do with them, I'm always checking out for sure. But this one, if you are a fan of animated spooky films and you want to see some of that resurgence, I beg of you guys, please go and check this out. It's one of those movies that you can take the whole family to see, and like I said, the message is pretty awesome. Although it is predictable at times, I felt like this was a breath of fresh air because we haven't gotten one of these films in a long while. So please go out and support it when it does come out October 29th in theaters everywhere, just in time for Halloween. But alright guys, so have you seen this movie yet, or are you looking forward to seeing it? What's your favorite spooky animated family film? Mine has to be either Corpse Bride or Monster House. Let me know in the comments below. Last thing before I do go, you guys, please make sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date. My name is Jacey, and until next time, I'm out.